everybody. Welcome to the podcast. Here
this is
we are
Macabre
again.
Podcast Universe, and I'm going to explain what it is this time.
Oh, thank
This
goodness.
is a podcast about franchises where Micah and I take on one franchise at a time and analyze the franchise, see what works, which movies work in the franchise, which movies don't work in the franchise, and the importance of franchises, and maybe the not importance of certain types of franchises.
And I would say that I was thinking about this a little bit earlier today. I think one of our kind of thesis, if this podcast does any good in the world, if it does any good, I would hope that it helps people to maybe look at movies with a little bit more of a less like letting things slide in movies a little bit, if that makes sense. Not necessarily
giving them benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, and not getting caught up on small things that actually don't matter, and trusting films a little bit. And then I think the other thing would be that franchises are not an inherently bad thing, and they can be fun, and fun movies and campy movies don't mean they're bad movies.
And here's the thing about our current political climate.
Uh-oh.
Everyone, I'm kidding about that. But in our day and age, everyone thinks they're a critic because of the internet. And Micah and I are no exception to that.
Yeah, we think we are.
But we're not. We don't get paid to do this.
Yeah, we do. We have Patreon.
I guess so.
We do, technically.
So
we are actually critics.
But you know what I mean. Everyone thinks they're a critic because of the internet and accessibility. And something I just urge people is to just let the movie take you. It's asking for you, when it's asking to whisk you away, go with them.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean you have to like everything, of course.
But suspension of disbelief, just let that happen.
There's definitely types of people that might take like like a movie like a John Carpenter movie, like They Live or something, where it's very, very cheesy, but there's no sense in wanting the movie to not be cheesy because it is intentionally cheesy. Mm-hmm. So that's not a bad thing.
Uh-huh.
I don't know why I'm bringing this up on Harry Potter, because I don't find this movie that we're going to discuss cheesy at all. But I guess maybe I'm just thinking, like, I watched Deathly Hallows last night. We double featured both of them. And I thought to myself, when we finished the first movie, I was like, this is an easy 9 out of 10. This is so good. I mean, this is like the culmination of the series, but I think there would be a school of thought that'd be like, Micah, you must not be a real like movie guy if you think Harry Potter's that good, because it's not like artistic. You know what I mean? It doesn't have like that air to it.
And I would argue,
it's very artistic.
I would argue that people think that because people look at Harry Potter as kids movies, whether the person has seen the Deathly Hallows or not. Even if people have, I think once they're removed from the movie for a while, they just lump it all in with like kids movies. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it is so not.
Yeah, well, and even the ones that are, that's not bad.
Nope.
Because Chamber of Secrets is in my top 3.
Yeah.
That one's still like, kind of, that's the best of like the first 4 movies, I think. It's so good.
Yeah.
So I don't know why we went on that rant, but I think we're at the end of the series basically, and I really love this series, and I think when I was younger and the series, so I didn't see it when it came out. I was a kid and I didn't see them, but then when I did finally watch them, I liked them, but in my head I was like, maybe I'm just combating myself. I was like, well, this is like a series. It's like a Hollywood thing. This is special effects driven. It's not like, it can be good, but it can't be great. And then watching it this time, I'm like, oh, no, this is great.
And I think when everyone starts to get into movies,
you have to go through that phase.
You go through the phase of like, okay, I only want to watch movies like The Godfather. I only want to watch dramas and stuff like that. And it's like, because those are like the best movies of all time kinds of movies. Yeah. But dramas are not, like, just because dramas often win the Oscars does not mean that they're the best. That's the best genre. There's not even a best genre. It's all subjective. So it's you do have to go through that and then get to a point where you're like, yeah, The Godfather, I don't know why I'm using that as an example, but
no, I think that's
like,
a great example.
The Godfather is a perfect movie, but my favorite movie is Harry Potter.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think once you get through that phase, then you start coming out with takes like the year that Game Night came out. Remember, I was like, that should win Best Original Screenplay. That's what I thought that year. I still stand by that.
Yeah.
I was like, that was like my third favorite movie of the year, and that's a 9 out of 10 for me.
Yeah.
It's like almost a perfect movie.
Yeah.
It's so good, and it's so funny, and I've watched it like 3 or 4 times, and it's always just as funny.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not like a prestige movie.
Yeah.
But I think critically, I think critics are getting a lot better at not just writing off movies because they are like connected to a franchise, you know? Anyway, so all that to say, right now we're getting into Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows hyphen part 1. Is that a hyphen? Is that what that's called? The little dash?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is directed by David Yates. That's a familiar name. He started at Order of the Phoenix. We have screenplay by Steve Clovis. We have David Heyman producing and David Barron producing, and J.K. Rowling gets a producing credit in this movie and the next movie. Cinematography is by Eduardo Serra, and he also did Defiance and Blood Diamond and Girl with the Pearl Earring and What Dreams May Come.
I haven't seen any of those movies.
And you might think, like, how come, what's his name, Bruno Del Bono didn't come back, right? The guy from the last movie who's worked with, like, that movie got nominated for Best Cinematography. He was, like, kind of afraid of repeating himself and didn't want to get stuck in something. So he decided not to do it, which is always kind of commendable, I find, when people have, like, guaranteed jobs and they're like, no, someone else needs to do it to make sure that this doesn't get stale. I always love that when people have that integrity. We have music by the great, the wonderful, I think you pronounce his name, Alexandre Duplat. He is a French man.
Is that how you've heard it? Yeah, he's French.
Yeah, he's French, and this man is incapable of making bad music. Every score that he does is phenomenal. And sometimes I go on Spotify and I click movies I haven't even seen just to listen to his score. There's a movie called The Light Between Oceans with Michael Fassbender and Alicia Vikander, and I thought the movie looked like a visual form of a sleeping pill. I thought that I was going to fall asleep watching the trailer to that movie. And side note, love Michael Fassbender, but I wish he would choose a movie that is not boring for once in his dang career. Anyway.
Okay.
He has a couple of them, but most of his movies are so boring. Just, can he please do something fun? Can he be on like an HBO like detective series or something? Can he do something that I actually like for once? I'm not counting Inglourious Bastards because he's only in that movie for like 2.5 minutes.
No, he's in it for way longer.
Oh, no, you're right.
He's in it for a whole sequence.
I got him confused with someone else.
Mike Myers.
Mike Myers, yeah.
Mike Myers.
No, yeah. He's in that for a lot. That one counts. Horrible X-Men movies. Side note. Okay, back to this. But Alexandre Duplat, he has this score, and I listened to the score of that movie, The Light Between Oceans, and it's unbelievable. I'm probably never going to watch the movie, but I will listen to that score anytime because it rules. And if you listen to our Oscar special, which is for patrons only, but if you sign up, you can listen to it now still. That was my pick for best score. And hopefully by the time this comes out, he will also have an Oscar that proves it in real life, not just a Micah Oscar. I just love him. And he's going to be...
He has an Oscar.
I know, but I hope he gets one for Little Women.
Oh, okay.
Because Little Women has now jumped to my second favorite score ever. I love it that much.
What's number 1?
Interstellar is still the most unbelievable score. But Little Women, I just could listen to that score all day. It's too good. Well, I listened to it 3 times in one day.
I know. It's good. I'm not saying it's not good.
It's so good. And I just remember when we were watching Little Women, I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm going to listen to this so much. And you don't always feel that, even when you like a score in a theater. Love the guy. Set design, once again, we have Stuart Craig. We got to give him props. He has created this amazing universe, and in all these movies, he just has mind-blowing sets.
Yes.
And this movie's no exception.
Yes.
And also, he just... There's a lot of on-set or on-location filming in this movie, which is pretty cool. I don't know exactly how a set designer works in that regard.
Well, do you think he might be part of the scouting team?
Probably, yeah.
Where did they shoot that's part on top of like the plateau with those weird rock
I was going to
formations?
look that up. I forgot to do
okay.
that. But maybe I can figure that out before
Leave
we're done.
it in a comment on iTunes if you know.
Yeah, subscribe, comment on iTunes, subscribe to Patreon, get your episodes early, and get exclusive episodes, because we're going to do another exclusive episode after this series is done. Produced by Warner Brothers and Heyday Pictures, distributed by Warner Brothers. The movie comes out November 19th, 2010. This movie, Jordan, is 10 years old. Can you
Crazy.
believe that? Domestically, it costs, so the budget is $250 million, but that's shared with Deathly Hallows, because Deathly Hallows 2, because they filmed them back to back.
Yeah.
The movie makes $295,983,305 domestically. Worldwide, the movie makes $976,536,918. So, let's find out a couple of fun things about the movie. They had an on-set Creature and Dobby character, like actors running around doing them.
Like stand-ins.
Stand-ins, so that
So motion
people
capture?
have not motion capture.
Is it for the actors?
It's for the actors, and
so they know what to look at.
And then they have something to actually interact with. Saw some footage of the actual, like, the table scene.
What do the people look like? What are the normal-sized people?
Just they're just like crouched over people, doing the like Andy Serkis kind of thing. And then here's the thing: David Heyman, the producer of all these, he was like initially resistant to the idea of doing 2 movies. He was like, I don't really want to do that, but an executive producer, Lionel Wigram, suggested it, and then they checked with J.K. Rowling and kind of discussed it more, and they, it's like, what could we cut to make it 1 movie? And they couldn't figure that out.
Yeah.
So they were like, okay, we got to do 2. And then, as far as I could tell, this is kind of, there are other movies that have been split into 2 movies, like, for example, your Kill Bills.
Yeah.
And stuff. But
how long would that movie have been? 4 hours?
Oh, yeah. I think it would have been
didn't he want to do
5.
one, and then as he was working on it, he was like, I got to do 2 volumes?
Well,
didn't he want to?
If I remember right, I think he wanted to release the 5-hour like movie, and the studio was like, you can't do that, Quentin. I know you're Quentin Tarantino, but you can't do that. Audiences aren't going to do that. And he's like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure this is the beginning of the trend that will happen kind of in the
I don't count Kill Bill as part
teens.
of that.
Yeah, and I saw a couple other movies, like something from like the 20s.
Well, but to me, they're all book related.
Yes, and this is where the weird trend starts, and I think as we'll get into more on Deathly Hallows Part 2, I don't think it completely works. But I think it's a really interesting experiment. And if you kind of look at it through that lens a little bit, it's kind of fun to be like, this is kind of like the first series to try this.
My opinion, it works.
I think I'll
my opinion,
save that for part 2.
Opinion,
save it for part 2.
It works.
But, well, and that's the whole thing is like, I can't, kind of like probably David Heyman thought, I'm like, I don't know how you would do it differently. I can't figure that part out of it. Okay. Pre-production began the 26th of January, 2009, and filming began the 19th of February. Your birthday, 2009.
I was 14.
Wow.
15. When do you get your permit?
You get your permit when you're 15.
No, I know, but like, are you a freshman?
I think like, I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe like,
I feel like I was 15.
Freshman or sophomore, I think you get your permit. Depends on like where your birthday lines up. Both were filmed over a year and a half. That's filming time, not like
that's a long
filming
time.
and editing and all that. And then this is very, very sad. A man named David Holmes was Harry Potter's stuntman, and they did a thing where he was in a harness and like an explosion goes off, and he was paralyzed during the filming of this movie.
Really?
And
like waist down, neck down.
I think he's like paralyzed.
Oh.
I forgot to, because they would have said quadriplegic, right? Is that the term for?
Yeah. Does that
legs?
just mean waist down?
Yeah, I think paralyzed means neck down.
Oh,
so
gosh.
He also had like intended to be like, I'm gonna recover, things will be fine. But as far as I could tell, it doesn't look. It looks like he is paralyzed now. So that's kind of sad. But like good for him for living
being
and
optimistic.
Yeah, and yeah, you wonder. Maybe if I had more time, it would have been interesting to see if there's any like interviews with him recently, since it's been like 10 years, to see if he has any thoughts or whatever. But anyway, Janie Temime is the costume designer for the movie. Very good on costumes, but she was criticized for possibly copying a dress in the wedding sequence.
By a designer, copying a designer's dress?
Alexander McQueen's Fall 2008 collection. So I didn't look at a comparison. That was enough for me.
Comparison.
And the movie is nominated for Best Production and Best Visual Effects. Loses both.
Ew.
I'm not sure, but I'm going to look it up while you jump on the cast. That's all my notes, baby. So now...
Surprisingly not very much, which is what you said, so...
Yeah, well, hopefully I'll find some more on Deathly Hallows Part 2, but I have a sneaking suspicion there really won't be production notes in that because it's a joint production, you know? So, anyway, are you ready?
Yeah, more or less. Okay, I just found someone and now they went away. So, this movie has a lot of new characters that we don't really like get a lot of. Like maybe they have one or two lines. So I'm not really what I mean by that are Death Eaters. A lot of Death Eaters, new faces that we haven't seen. I'm not really going to focus on most of them because in terms of time.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that I'm sure that some of them are like way big in one respect. Maybe I just don't know, but you got to nip it in the bud at some point.
Yeah.
I'm going to start with, this is so Donnell. It's not Donnell. That's an M.
It's pronounced Donnell, though.
Are you sure?
There was an IMDb video I watched that explained how to pronounce it, and I was just listening to an interview, and it's like, we're here with Donald Gleason.
Okay, well, you can't get any more specific than that.
Yes, because I wanted to get his name right. I love that guy.
So, Donald Gleason. Did you hear that last name, people?
Donald.
No, last name.
Gleason. Wait.
His daddy. Okay, wait. First of all, he plays Bill Beasley. Second of all, his dada is Mad Eye Moody, Brendan Gleason. Pretty cool, guys. Okay, but Donald Gleason has been around the block, I would say. He was in Ex Machina. He's in the movie Frank, a Michael Fassbender movie, Micah.
Very boring movie.
Yes, okay. It looks nice.
Well, it's not. I guess that's not a very boring movie. It's a really okay movie.
I think it is a quintessential indie movie.
I don't think so.
Seriously?
I don't think you need to watch that if you're diving into indie.
No, not I guess quintessential is the wrong word. It's just a by the numbers indie movie.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Gosh, what's your problem? And then he's in About Time with Rachel McAdams. That's right. He plays the love interest of Rachel McAdams. Guys are swooning over that. He is also General Hux in the recent Star Wars trilogy.
Yeah.
He is also in Peter Rabbit. And then...
Yeah, I hate that he's in Peter Rabbit.
Ew.
That kind of makes me mad. Did you say Ex Machina already?
I already did.
Okay.
Remember, he's in Mother.
He is?
He is.
Who's he in Mother?
Remember...
is he like one of the Cain and Abel?
Yes.
Like prototypes? Okay.
Do not recommend that movie, by the way. But we're not going to cover it.
Ooh. Could I jump back in?
Okay.
So, Best Visual Effects. Nominees that year were Alice in Wonderland, one of the worst movies ever made, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, Hereafter, Iron Man 2, and then the winner, Inception, baby.
Oh, cool.
That's a good one to win.
He's also in American Made. He's in The Revenant. He's in Brooklyn, Unbroken. Oh, that's right. Unbroken was like one of the first things I recognized him in. He's in that movie Calvary that apparently everyone else is in. Just kidding. His dad's in it. Calvary?
Oh, yes.
So him and dad.
Do you look how sad I'm looking?
Over what?
Best art direction winner.
Alice in Wonderland.
Over Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. That gross. That movie is so ugly, it's crazy. And Deathly Hallows is not ugly.
Looks very nice. I'm going to get back to this, though.
Okay.
So, cool thing that I like that did with Bill's makeup, and more makeup than anything. It's cool to have this character in it, because obviously he's in the books, and there's so many moving parts. Like, they could have written him out if they needed to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I like that he has scars on his face, and they briefly mention it. But he was scratched by a werewolf, not bitten by one.
Was he scratched by the Death Eater werewolf guy?
I think so.
Because I think he said his name in that
He
scene.
probably did. So I'm pretty sure it was him.
And he said, I'm going to get my revenge.
Yeah.
Or like, I hope I get my revenge.
Yeah. So I like that he has scratched on his face. And in the book, it's just a fun, really nice touch. It really rounds it out where he was scratched by it and not bitten by it. Therefore, he is not a werewolf. But they make, like his wife, Fleur de Cour from Goblet of Fire, makes a comment about like, yeah, but now he has an affinity for really rare meat. So he has like
the girl
symptoms.
That's in the Goblet of Fire contest?
Yeah.
That's who he marries?
Yeah.
And it's the same actress.
Yep.
That totally went over my head.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
I mean, she's not wearing like the uniform,
blue, yeah.
so she doesn't look the same.
Still, that's kind of funny. I didn't realize that.
And then, okay, yeah, let's just go over him. Rise Iffens. I'm reading my phone.
I know. Just try to glance over.
He is in The Amazing Spider-Man. He's a lizard man.
The lizard. Come
He's
on.
in Snowden. He is in Alice Through the Looking Glass.
Oh, sorry, man.
And Serena. Remember that movie?
Is that
Me neither.
Is that the one with George Clooney?
No, that's the one with Jennifer Lawrence and Bradley Cooper.
Oh yeah.
Where'd he go? I'm not seeing Warwick on here at all. Let's go to this other guy first, though. Bill Nye, who...
Let's save Warwick for part 2, because he's like very influential in part 2.
So, Minister Rufus Scribgor, I don't know how to pronounce
Love this
it.
guy in the movie.
Bill
He's fantastic.
Nye, and I don't even know how you pronounce that, if that's correct. He is in... Whoa! He's Davy Jones.
From the titular Davy Jones' locker?
Yeah. Cool.
Like the guy with those squid
Yeah,
things?
this is Davy Jones.
Oh.
Dang, that's cool. I wonder
That's very cool.
I mean, I haven't seen that movie since I was a kid, so I'm curious if I'll recognize his voice when we watch it.
Probably. I mean, he's got a pretty iconic sounding voice.
I'd say so. He's also the bad guy in Pokemon, Detective Pikachu.
Duh. Yeah.
He's in Love Actually. He's also in About Time.
Oh. He's with Donald in that movie.
And Rachel McAdams. Guys are still swooning. And then a lot of British stuff. Yeah, there wasn't much to go over, and I'm there's, you know, like I said, not really covering Death Eaters just because there's so many.
Yeah.
But I do think that there are definitely some Death Eaters that are like, dang, that guy is really good. He really knows. Okay, actually, I'll cover this guy because I just saw that movie he's in. Peter Mullen, who is the one Death Eater that has like it's kind of a thicker Scottish sounding accent. And when they all take the Polyjuice Potion and go into the Ministry, and he's the one chasing them out, and he's the one that Ron gets spliced with.
Yes.
So that guy's good because he just like knows who he is. You know,
I just remembered how cool that whole
There's no
sequence
hesitation
is.
with him. He is in Warhorse.
Oh, cool.
He is also in Children of Men.
Oh.
Don't remember him in it.
Do you remember what his character name is?
His name is Sid. I'm assuming he's part of the people who live in that house.
Is he? No, I think he's the bus driver, isn't he?
Isn't
he the bus driver that takes them to the place, and he's like Scottish, and he's like
probably.
Do you know him? Okay.
Let's look it up later, Micah.
Well, okay, I'm gonna look it up, and you keep talking.
Well, I don't have much more to talk about.
Yeah. Yes, it's this guy.
Do you have a picture?
Yes. Yes, it is the Children of Men guy. I knew I recognized him.
Yeah.
Who like transports them.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Another connection to Harry Potter, Alfonso Cuarón. So what a web we weave when we practice to deceive, as they say.
You know what's weird? Maybe this is an off mic discussion, but you can edit it out. Who cares?
Okay.
So Fred and George are they're twins, believe it or not. Their last name's Phelps.
Like Phelps?
Yeah, and they kind of look like the Phelps.
Do you think they're related to Grayson and Alan and Renee and...
I mean, like, don't you think that's passable?
Oh my gosh. I mean, yeah, I could see that.
Can you ask Grayson to do Ancestry?
How much?
Or 23andMe?
So, okay, here's a question.
I'll buy it for him.
And we will keep all of that on. We're not cutting that, by the way.
Oh, I will cover one more person, by the way.
Okay. So would you, what would you do if you met a Harry Potter person? Anyone in the cast? And let's put
what's the context?
Let's put it in a context where it's some sort of event where it's not weird that we would be talking to them.
Is it kind of like a run-in situation?
Let's just pretend, even though we don't attend something like this, it's like a big dinner party, and one of the cast members is there, and they're talking to people, and they're making the rounds and stuff. And maybe you don't even have to say hi; they come over and say hi. I don't know why I'm making this up.
That's so scary.
But what would you say? It's a Fred or a George.
I would probably tell them that I was a really big fan of what they did. I thought they did a really good job, and that's probably it. From my experience of talking to people who I really admire, who are kind of famous, it's really disappointing when you try to get something out of them.
Yeah.
Understandably, because people think that their admiration for someone translates into that person is my friend, and that person will never be your friend.
Right.
Unless maybe you it's just so that's never going to happen.
Sure.
And I have had situations like that where I'm like, I really would rather have never talked to that person.
Yeah.
Who I really admire. And it's not the person didn't do anything bad or they weren't mean, but it was obviously I was forcing something on them.
Yeah. And
it felt really gross.
Yeah.
So I would probably say really, really big fan of your work. And then if it's them, I don't think they do much. So I would just be curious, what have you guys been doing?
Yeah.
Since then, if the conversation felt like that. But more than anything, I would probably just be okay, you don't have to talk to me.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be cool if if this podcast got enough of a following that it wouldn't be outside of the realm of possibility that we could get not an extra, but a light cast member in movies like this?
That'd be great.
So we could cover, a Marvel movie and be let's have Clark Gregg on, the guy who's Agent Coulson. I mean, we wouldn't want him because we bash him a lot in our series, but something like that. That'd be cool.
Well, that's a different context too. You're totally allowed to ask them all the questions you want to ask all these people.
Yeah, it's totally different.
But in different contexts, it's just just let them enjoy if it's a party, it's just enjoy your time.
Yeah.
I don't need to ask you about all of your experiences on Harry Potter.
And I hope that the listener at home is just riveted by that conversation.
Sounds like a real bummer, I know, but
no, you bring up a good point.
Them's the facts.
So do you want to jump into the plot now?
Sure.
Or are we good?
No. Oh, I want to cover more guy.
Yes. Okay. I thought that.
George Harris, who plays Kingsley Shacklebot.
Kingsley Shacklebot.
It is the really, really awesome black guy. In purple.
Yes. Okay.
He is wonderful, and he's wonderful in the books too. He's in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh my gosh. Wait, he is the guy that goes up to Indiana Jones when they're leaving on the boat, and he's the guy that has the boat that Indy goes on, and then he goes off of the boat and goes onto the Nazi submarine. He's the captain of the boat. That's insane. That's the guy.
That's crazy that you figured that out, because I didn't know
Well, right
that.
when you said it, I was like, oh yeah, they have the same face. They're the same guy. Oh, that's so cool.
Oh, I'm glad I picked this guy.
Yeah.
He's also in Layer Cake.
Oh, cool.
A movie I'm not sure I'll ever get around to watching.
Good movie.
I know. I'm sure it is.
Oh, man. I can't believe he's in Indiana Jones. That's Raiders of the Lost Ark, too. That's the OG Indiana Jones.
Yep. And then, the British stuff. But he was born in Grenada, British West Indies.
Cool. All right.
Oh, he's in Madeline. Wow.
Okay, so let's jump into the plot.
Frances McDormand's in Madeline? Whoa, that is her. Oh my gosh. I that face of, she's a nun. And that just face of her is just burned in my memory, and I just never realized it was her.
That's always an interesting experience. It's always fun that it's caught on mic too, because I feel like this has happened several times.
It just happened to you.
Yeah, I know throughout the podcast. That's probably when the listener is just riveted. Okay, so let's jump in to the movie. Now this one begins very, very somber. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm.
We're not getting a lot of like the whimsy.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like there's this feeling of dread right away.
And because of the last movie, this one it's like it's go time.
Yes. And it's kind of, I really think it's interesting how they start the movie just like that. And you have that scene where Hermione, her parents are there, and she says "obliviate," and it deletes her memory from her parents, and like their pictures.
She like
and
erases
stuff like
her
that.
existence,
Yeah,
to the point where it even affects other people who are not just her parents. Because remember, meanwhile, during this time, it's showing other people doing things, and you see the Dursleys are moving.
Yeah.
And Dudley's like, I don't understand why we're moving. And Vernon's like saying like, it's not safe here anymore. Then Hermione does that. And then it cuts back to Petunia sitting in the car and she looks very confused. And then it goes to Vernon. He looks very confused.
Yeah.
That just means that they're forgetting Hermione.
Oh, they knew her?
Well, I mean, of course they knew her because of Harry. You know, like maybe they didn't like meet her, but like I'm sure they know her. And that's, I mean, it's too weird for them to be confused and not know that.
Oh, I thought they were just confused at the situation that was happening.
No, they just kind of like something feels wrong.
Huh. Okay. But yeah, so we have that, and that's pretty wild. There's no music. It's silent, and it's
There's no music?
Yeah, I don't well, I wrote silent intro.
Okay.
Oh no, what I meant to say is that it's like the movie comes in and it's silent,
like
and
no
then
talking
the
or...
music starts. Yeah. So
and so the Dursleys are moving out, but Harry is staying behind.
Yes, which is also very cool.
Yeah, so like I love that he's walking downstairs and the house is just completely empty. There's nothing left.
Yeah,
and you know, this intro is a couple minutes long, and like you said, it's very somber. But then, like, pretty quickly, knock on the door. It's Moody. Go time.
Yeah, and this all is pretty cool. This is when, so we see like all the cast of characters that we know and love. Not all, but a lot of them. All the Weasley people and
we're introduced to. This is when we're introduced to Bill.
Yes, Donald Gleason,
and we also are introduced to Mundungus Fletcher.
And who's that again?
British Danny DeVito.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that actually worked. And then we find out that they need to that they're going to do this plot to turn a bunch of people into Harrys through polyjuice potions, and
because they need to transport them.
And where are they trying to get to again?
They're going to the Weasleys.
Go to the Weasleys. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like to safely transport him to the Weasleys. And Ron is, he's very much like, I don't want you guys to do this because
Ron.
I mean, I'm sorry, Harry. Like, don't want you to do it. And
I like, yeah, because they do that a lot in this movie, or he does it a lot in this movie, and I like that every time it's like stop worrying about that. That doesn't matter. And then to the point where he's trying to, they're at the I'm just jumping forward, but they're at the Weasleys, and he's trying to leave in the middle of the night, and Ron's stopping him, and he says the same thing, like, I don't want people risking their lives for me, and Ron's like, you think this is all about you?
Yeah. And he like, says that thing where he's like, we wouldn't last 2 days without Hermione. What
if he just left by himself. Yeah, because Harry's like, come with me. But I just like what Ron's like, this isn't because of you. Yeah. Like, we're not like risking our lives just because of you, Yeah. And I it's just a lot of, when they do stuff like that in movies where someone's like leaving for this thing because it's like, I'm the problem. Sometimes I feel like the explanations aren't very good.
Yeah.
Or I guess I'm not super convinced.
Totally.
And this one I'm like, yeah, Ron's right.
Yeah. This one is in line with like the breaking of the Fellowship, like when Frodo wants to leave, and you're like, oh, I totally get where Frodo's coming from.
Yeah,
it's too much, but then you got to have your Sams or your Rons, both redheaded.
Yeah, no, it all makes sense.
To be like, no, that doesn't make sense.
Redheaded. Okay.
Not like TOO redheaded, but two redheads.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, okay.
Either way. Okay.
But what's cool is in that shot, as with all the polyjuice stuff, there's some kind of fun behind the scenes stuff where, they do the shot where all these different people morph into Harry. And so Daniel Radcliffe has to learn kind of how people do certain things so that he can act like them in the shots, and then they they basically like
a little bit
plate
of
them.
A little bit of a body switching.
Yes, and
Didn't
that's
you
what
say that when we were watching? You're like, we haven't had a good body switching movie in a while.
Yeah. But they basically just they'll do a take with him as one person, do a take with him as another person, then they combine all the takes together. And I guess it took him a while to figure out the bra, because he's Hermione funny. And Hermione like takes it off
Belle or Floor.
Yes, yeah, and so he had to like get some guidance from one of the girls on set, like on how to take it off that way, because that is like for a guy that's so unfamiliar.
So to go on a tiny bit of a tangent, something I really appreciate with this story is like, you get to moments where you're like, how are we going to figure this one out? Yeah. All this stuff. And a lot of it's like they're kids, so like they don't know everything yet. Well, now they're at a point where they're pretty experienced.
Yeah.
And I like that, like in a world where there are just so many, like practically infinite possibilities. Mm-hmm. It's cool that the polyjuice potion is used so often. Like that seems like a really simple solution.
Yes, I wanted to talk about this as well.
Okay.
You're digging into something that I really like about
the series. Just instead of continuing to make up different things, just use the thing that they already know.
Yeah,
I
like that they do that with the polyjuice, and it comes up with the invisibility cloak, the map. Like there's so many things that instead of, like you said, trying to come up with something else, it makes the series feel more cohesive.
Yes.
Instead of like a serial.
Yeah, and also
because if this was like a Indiana Jones, which is great, it would be like, okay, now we have like new things. It's not based off of the other thing because they're not related really.
Yeah.
Or like Mad Max even.
Yeah.
And this, I like that it's very tied to each thing, and it makes sense that they'd be like, well, this works once. Let's make it work again.
I would call it intuitive.
Yes.
Because it's like I said, infinite possibilities of things pretty much. But why try to do something you've never done when you can use something that you know already works?
Yeah, and I think they flip it on its head enough times that it never gets boring.
Yeah.
They've
been using it since the second movie.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, because they used it in the second movie.
And then in the fourth movie.
In the fourth one?
Because of Moody. Well, David Tennant is doing it the whole movie.
Yeah, so you see like a flip side of it.
Yeah.
And then this one.
Yeah.
And then
the next one too.
Or no, that's in this movie.
Hermione turns into Bellatrix in the next movie.
Oh, that is in the next. Yeah. But this one, we also have the Ministry of Magic
that's
section,
in this one.
which is one of my favorite parts of the whole series, I would say.
Oh, interesting.
Love it.
Well, we'll get there.
But,
first, we need to get to the Weasley's house.
This is like a very intense. I really like this whole sequence where they're flying through the air and then they get attacked.
Visuals are just amazing.
Visuals are great. And when they crash into the water, it just looks so good because it's a real crash. I mean, you can see where the CG like takes over and whatnot, but it still looks great.
When we have death count 1 of this two-parters, Hedwig dies.
Oh yeah, no. I don't like that.
Yeah, it's really sad.
We don't want that.
But
to happen.
I think like it does. It's like it affected it's part of the story. You know what I mean? Because like everyone gets there, and then Moody's like, "What gave you?" No, Moody didn't get there because Moody also died.
Yeah,
that one's also crazy. But I think it's Lupin, maybe, who was like, "What? Like, how did they track us? Like, how did they know it was you?" And Harry said, "I think it's because of Hedwig." That they knew it was him.
Oh, that's
because Hedwig
what it
was protecting Harry.
Ah, yes.
So, I just that is the convey.
Oh, that makes sense. So they didn't have a traitor.
They might have. I don't know.
They probably still did because they knew
because of the Mundungus Fletcher character. It's kind of like he's not to be trusted.
Yeah.
And they established that pretty early on. He's like he's on no one's side kind of guy. Whatever is going to get him out of it.
That's the Danny DeVito guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they also said that he disapparated like pretty much right away because he got scared.
But I wish on a critical level, I wish there was like a little extra moment for Hedwig. Like,
I get it.
Like a moment where they're back and he gets. I mean, I'm talking a moment because we got to have like the Dobby moment, which is like the moment of like reflection.
And we've had more time with Hedwig.
But I would have liked him, even if he had like a feather in his pocket and
I would
looked
agree
at it
with
sad
you.
and had a tear or something.
I would agree with you, but I'm kind of like thinking, One, it happens so fast, there's not even time to process it, even when they get there, because there's other things going on. And then also that is like an essence of time.
Yeah.
But
that's why I'm saying moment, not scene.
I know. But
lay off. Okay.
So I don't remember if it's Fred or George. One of them gets like basically his ear blown off.
Yeah.
And then one thing, sorry, I keep burping. Shocker.
You don't have to say that into the mic.
So before they leave and before everyone turns into Harry, what's her name? Lupin's like
I don't know her name.
Oh,
just skip it. Just skip it. Go.
But she was about to announce something.
Yes.
And Moody cut her off. She's pregnant.
Oh, do they ever pay that off?
Later on in the movie, after Lupin is gone, well, I guess in the next movie, when Harry has the Death Stone and he like conjures the people that he conjures, Lupin says like, Harry's like, I'm so sorry about that. And Lupin's like, don't worry about him. There will be people to tell him who his parents were.
Oh, yeah.
Like they just had a baby. It's just for people who have read the books, Lupin and this girl, and I'm so mad that I can't remember her name. Their relationship is really interesting because they are together and she really wants a kid, but he is really terrified to have a kid because he's a werewolf. So it's just a really interesting conflict dynamic.
Yeah. Okay.
Just explore that for a second. Anyway, so we're at the Weasleys.
Yeah. So now it's wedding time.
Yeah.
And
like we just said, Harry tried leaving. Ron convinced him to stay.
Yeah, wedding is pretty fun.
Harry
cool.
zips up Ginny's dress.
Very sexual. You pointed that out. Like last week you were talking about how there was like a sexual energy to her performance. And I was like, no, I think you're overthinking it. But then in this one, it's like, okay, I think you were right.
Kind of like whatever. But important part before the wedding happens. The Minister of Magic comes to bequeath them things that Dumbledore have left. Ron, Hermione, and Harry. Leaves Hermione the Beetle Bard book. Leaves Ron the light, the illuminator.
Yeah, from the very first scene of the series.
Yeah, and then leaves Harry with the first snitch he ever caught.
Yeah.
Okay, so the wedding.
So the wedding happens. Donald Gleason getting married, and his dad is not there because he died in the previous thing. I'm kidding, because Brendan Gleeson.
I'm like, it's Arthur Weasley. He's not dead.
Yeah, you're right. And then this is where we meet Luna Lovegood's dad. And is not, there's someone else at the wedding, too, I think that they have a discussion with.
He talks with this old guy. I think that he was a colleague of Dumbledore. I can't really remember. This part I always forget. But talking to him about that, this woman starts butting into their conversation and is like saying, like, talking about Godric's Hollow. And Harry's like, what is with that? And she's like, did you ever know Dumbledore? Did you know this thing, this thing, this thing? So it's like, there's a lot that he needs to discover about Dumbledore.
Yeah.
If he wants to figure out where Horcruxes might be.
Yeah.
And also learn a little bit about himself in order to learn these things.
Yeah. And then,
that's a big,
And then they're attacked and they disapparate.
Yeah.
They disapparate, and then they're in this London street, and they almost get hit by a double-decker bus, and I found out that they actually shot all that stuff at night and shut down that street.
Like in the middle of the night?
Like, yeah, in real life, though. So,
wow.
And then they asked all the businesses nearby to keep their lights on so that it would look like it's daytime.
A lot of extras.
There's, like, behind the scenes where you can see them, like, walking to the set, and there's, like, walls of people like just outside like screaming as like the three characters are walking over to where they need to go. You're like, geez.
Is it like the Times Square of London?
Yeah, I think they said but I'm afraid that I maybe misheard, but I think they said Piccadilly Circus is the name of the like
the
street
square?
Or whatever where they were at. I think.
So when are we going there? That place sounds cool.
But so they go there and then they're in the coffee shop, the three of them, and they're kind of like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do?
Introduced to Hermione's amazing bag. Her Mary Poppins bag.
Yes, her Mary Poppins
that
bag.
comes in handy for the rest of the two movies.
Yeah, and it's practically perfect in every way.
Yeah.
And
except for being practical.
It's very practical.
No, like practical in real life.
What?
Like a practical effect.
Oh yeah. But then they're attacked in there by people dressed as normal people, and then she uses the Obliviate
on the
curse, not curse, but Swear?
Spell.
That's not it. Spell.
Yeah.
That's it.
The synonym for curse. Swear. You're not wrong.
But all of this stuff is very cool, and if you look at the behind the scenes, it's just kind of wild because like when they're shooting the wands and stuff's exploding, like there's dust and stuff flying off of the walls, and a lot of that stuff is practical.
Well, I mean, it's like shooting a gun.
The effect of the actual wand is what is not practical,
and it's like shooting a gun, like a blank, and
it's
stuff's
just
reacting.
It's very, very cool.
Yeah.
They're just setting up squibs everywhere and exploding crap.
Yeah.
So then after all of that, one thing we failed to mention was at the very beginning, there's also like the council of bad guys. And
right.
This is just such it's such a statement, I think, for the film as long, like that whole intro is just like, this is serious. This is the end, because it's really, really kind of graphic, in terms of, violence. You know, there's like a woman being tortured.
Yeah.
Not
only any woman, she taught Muggle studies.
Yeah, and Voldemort is like not. I mean, he's creepy. He is very. I mean, he's been creepy the whole time, but he's extraordinarily creepy.
And we see Lucius looking really gross, like really unhealthy.
Yeah, this I really like about these two movies is seeing him, especially because that actor is just usually kind of the bad guy, you know. But to see him be kind of
tail between his legs.
Yeah, and he's just so worried. He knows he's in too deep and that he's probably not going to make it out, and he's trying to grapple with that.
Yeah.
And I love that. It's so he's always kind of like sweaty and just like greasy overgrown hair, and his beard is like everything's like bad.
Unshaved.
He does not look good.
He's always very put together. And then we see like he brings the woman to everyone, and she's looking at Snape and asking, like pleading for her life, like Snape, we're friends, and all he does is stare at her. He doesn't say a word. And like Voldemort even looks at him like, is he gonna break? Is this like as if maybe he was always a little like curious about his allegiances because he worked at Hogwarts, and he just kills her, and the snake eats her in front of everybody.
Well, and I think in the next episode we will get it more into Snape, but it is just wild. If you, I think there is a school of thought that I understand where you just don't like Snape. You know, I think there's a lot of people who are like, I hate that guy, he's the worst. But if you really try and put yourself in his shoes, like to be that deep cover, I mean, he's having to witness things that he would never ever want to witness, and you know because of other sequences that he is not. Like, he's not like a guy that's double crossing, but kind of likes it. He doesn't like that he's in this position at all. He hates it. And so, gosh, when you see it with that knowledge, you're just like, man, Alan Rickman, you are just killing it. Because he had to like watch some sort of colleague die, whether it's a friend or not. He watched him die.
And a lot of other people, just by being in it.
Crazy. And I mean, he had to kill one of his friends.
Yep.
The previous one. And then we have this great sequence where they go to the Ministry of Magic again, and they basically find some wizards.
Oh, we skipped over something.
What?
They go to Sirius's house. Because they have the locket, and we knew by the end of Half-Blood Prince the locket's fake. But they go to Sirius's house as asylum, like as a refuge.
Yeah.
And they discover R.A.B. Regulus Black, Sirius's brother. He's the one who got the locket. And you see that his room is totally disheveled, like someone had just been in there rummaging through it. So then we are reintroduced to Creature, who looks incredible.
Yeah, who is the house elf of Sirius.
Of the Blacks. And also just love the touch of he is incredibly prejudiced against mudbloods and muggles.
Yeah.
Just so interesting.
He's so cool.
Because the Blacks are not that great of a family. Like their lineage is not that great.
No.
Sirius is like the black sheep of the family.
I know. I'm kidding.
So they are asking him about someone being here, and then they said, go get him. He brings back Mundungus Fletcher, but he also brings back Dobby.
Yeah, Dobby comes and then we get Dobby again. He hasn't been in there since 2? Has he not been around?
I think so. Really important. He's wearing shoes.
Yeah, because free elves wear shoes.
Yeah, well, he's just wearing clothes. In the books, like Sydney said when we were watching it, he would wear really ridiculous outfits.
Yeah,
because he finally could.
Yeah.
But I think for sake of cutting corners in the movie, he's wearing shoes, which is still a very big deal. So yeah, Dobby's back, and he knows like pretty much everything too, and it's a really
love
funny
their
scene.
dynamic because like Creature's trying to explain stuff, and Dobby keeps cutting him off.
Yeah,
and it just made me think, I don't need Fantastic Beasts. I need a Creech / Dob buddy cop movie where they're trying to find Horcruxes. That's what I want. Animated half-hour episodes.
I want that too. Okay, then we learn here that Mundungus did steal the locket.
Yes.
And he wanted to like pawn it, you know. So he goes to Nocturne Alley. He is stopped and interrogated by Umbridge.
Yeah.
And she confiscates it.
My girl.
So that's what leads them to the Ministry of Magic.
Right.
Because they know that she has it now.
Yeah. And you know, so this movie and the next movie, this story, I'm wondering what your thoughts are on this, but I find a lot of times in movies where it's like, oh, we have to get these certain items, like 1, 2, and 3. I usually get kind of bored during those movies, but I don't in these movies. And I'm kind of trying to figure out why that is. Because, you know, sometimes like quest movies where you have to get this item and then it leads you to this item and then this item is it just gets kind of monotonous because you're always like keeping a running tally in your head. My theory was that since 2 of them are destroyed by the time you even find out what a Horcrux is, that's pretty riveting. And then since they spend this entire movie just trying to figure out how to destroy one of them, that's riveting. And then finally in the next movie, they find him pretty quickly, and then you find out that Harry's a Horcrux, so it makes it all seem pretty different and not just like long quest.
I also think that this is what all the books are about, is just about solving things.
Yeah.
So I think that's also why it works. Because
That's true.
it's still what figuring out and solving puzzles.
Yeah.
So we go down to the Ministry of Magic, and it's pretty interesting because there's the statue is different this time. That kind of ties everything together.
Right.
It is now Muggles, so like being the foundation and support of wizards, like slaves to them.
Yeah.
So it's pretty nutso.
Yes.
Thing to see. Also, it's like you've said, the same set from Order of the Phoenix. So it's nice that they don't have to change anything structurally. Yeah. And it still looks really cool. Yeah. And because we haven't seen it too much, it still is exciting to see and explore.
Yeah.
So they go to the elevator right away to try and find Umbridge. And a guy who works for the Ministry but is also a Death Eater who we saw earlier on, he stops them and is telling Ron, whoever Ron is.
This is the Children of Men guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's like saying, my office has been raining for 2 days.
Funny.
You need to fix it.
Like that.
And he's like, I've also heard that your wife's in the down doing her hearing right now.
Yeah.
If you want her to get off and be fine, you better stop the rain.
Yeah.
So Ron has to figure that out. Umbridge enters the elevator and has to stay with Umbridge because she's like her assistant, which leaves Harry to go alone to Umbridge's office.
Yeah. I mean, what a bad couple of people they decided to choose to be.
Yeah.
But
it is the people who would cause less suspicion of being in those areas. I think that was the choice.
Yeah. Well, I think it was random, right? They just grabbed random people. It just happened to be that way because they were just walking down the street and they just grabbed them. That's what I remember anyway.
Well, I guess that's true. But also, earlier in the movie,
it's just fun body switching hijinks. That's the fun of it.
Yeah.
That's why I like body switching.
Just earlier in the movie, they showed like one of the people from the Ministry was like giving a speech. And in the background were those people. I think a big part of it is so that we know, like we recognize these people. So it's not just random. But I always thought that it was like,
I just don't think that they have
suspicion.
that knowledge.
Oh, okay.
Is what I think.
Okay.
And you have to agree with me.
Fine.
So then they go in and there's this they go into like the court area and Umbridge is talking to the guy's wife and trying to get her to confess that she's a mudblood or something along those lines. And there's like this shield and these what are those called?
Death Eaters.
The Dementors.
Dementors.
Dementors
you
are trying to
Umbridge's
like
office.
I don't even what's in Umbridge's office.
Well, Harry goes there to try and find the Horcrux.
Oh, okay.
So he goes up and there's all those people flipping papers with their wands. And
Oh,
he
yeah,
lets
yeah,
out
that's
that
cool.
that like charm prank thing, and all the horns start honking and the smoke start coming out. And that's when he goes to her desk and is looking through her desk and sees like her hit list.
Well, and this is also the kind of, this goes back to like David Yates' political filmmaking. If you remember, that's like one of the reasons they hired him for Order of the Phoenix. And so the whole, like, just this whole thing is very, when he's in the Ministry of Magic, it feels like he really has an extra grip on the material.
Yes, I agree.
So
go to the hearing.
Go to the hearing.
Yeah.
Okay. So we see that the Horcrux is there, and there's stuff that's going on. Basically, we get this great payoff where Harry Potter gets to, like, his Polyjuice potion goes off, and he goes,
"You're lying, Dolores.
You're lying, Dolores, and one must never tell lies." And you're like, yes.
Yeah.
That's great. They get the Horcrux. Through some trepidation, they get out of there, and they're chased by the guy from Children of Men. And he is really going ham, and he's going, whoosh, and he's just throwing his wand around.
Good.
But he's very confident.
Yes.
And as he shoots his wand, and they go up
he goes with them.
Oh, yeah, he goes with them.
Up the flu powder.
Yes. And then Ron, Harry, Hermione, they are, like, out in this random place, and Ron is not doing
He's spliced.
good. Yes, he's
so,
spliced.
Like, that means when he was like in the flu powder traveling, that like part of the like him and the guy, I think if I remember right, like kind of merge for a second.
Okay.
Something like that, and it's like terrible, obviously.
Yeah, and this
kind
shows
of a gnarly scar.
Yeah, and this shows like two things where it's like Hermione and him, you're seeing even more that they do really love each other, but then also it helps her get rid of this stuff, so at the end of the movie you're not like, how come she didn't just use a healing stuff from her purse? Because she uses it all on Ron.
When would she use it again?
When Dobby's stabbed at the end of the movie.
Oh, I just assume that's one of those things like in movies where it's like, how come we're not helping this person? What's going on? And everyone's just staring and not doing anything. I just assume it's like they just know that you can't help them.
Well, I think that's part of it, but there's a lot of stuff in this series that I think is stuff that would not drive me crazy. But I think they and JK go the extra mile so that people who would say like plot hole are like, oh, well, actually she did run out of the stuff earlier in the movie, so she can't use it. Because remember, Harry even looks at her and is like, what, do you have anything? And she just nods her head or shakes her head.
I guess I never thought about it that way. Makes sense.
Yeah. And then this is when we start maybe like one of the best sequences of the series, Jordan.
The slow burn middle.
Because we have Ron, Harry, Hermione, and they can't destroy this Horcrux. She keeps doing these cool spells that prevent them from being seen. And they're just out in like the wilderness, and they're just traveling, and they're getting on each other's nerves. And the Horcrux has like a Lord of the Rings thing going on where when you wear it too much, it kind of drives you crazy.
It makes you mad. Like cranky mad, but like times a million.
Yeah. And really cool sets that we keep going through as they're going other places, and they just don't know what to do.
Well, Ron doesn't go with them to all those other places.
Oh, right. That's
so
later.
This is the part like in the woods when. So yeah, they start doing it in shifts. The reason why they're not traveling for this long period of time is because Ron is not strong enough to travel to disapparate, because that's how they would travel. So he needs to get, which means they can't do anything. And of course it drives Harry nuts. And that's when Hermione's like, take it off.
Yeah.
And then, they wear it in shifts. And they are walking on foot. They're just not disapparating.
Yeah.
But we do see during that time snatchers in the woods. But because of her charms, they can't see them. I just think it's a super nice touch that he smells her.
Well, yeah, and there's that great shot that's very cool, where the camera loops around and you see it from her angle, and then when you go to what he's seeing, the forest is empty. Yeah. And then it goes back into like the shield.
Yeah, so cool. I love that.
Very cool. But then what happens is Ron he's going mad from the thing, and he sees that Hermione and Harry keep talking about stuff. And he just gets jealous. And I think this one's like an earned one. Yes. Much as in, I think the last movie, there was some tension that was earned. it's not like the Goblet of Fire stuff where you're like,
Yeah.
okay, brother, just get through this.
Yeah.
This is like this is the Frodo Sam moment where Sam is kind of losing it, right?
Yeah.
Is it Sam? No, it's because Smeagol sets up Frodo, and then and Frodo's kind of losing it.
But Smeagol's like, or Gollum is like encouraging bad feelings that are already being developed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. He's just bringing them out worse. Yeah. So then Ron leaves, and then we are graced with probably the best moment of the whole series.
The dancing part?
The dance.
I was thinking that I was wondering if you were going to think that part was really lame.
It's the best part of the series, I think.
The series?
It's like the character moment.
Entire, all 8 of them.
I think it might be.
Wow.
It's so
surprising.
good. It's so touching. Kind of makes me want to cry. The song choice is fantastic.
Do you know what it is?
I don't know. I've never heard it before.
I always forget to look it up.
And it's just this really beautiful moment where you see like Hermione's so upset that Ron left them. And they have this Horcrux. They don't know what to do. They're at like their wits' end. And then she just has music on and they just dance. And it's this totally just friends trying to support each other. And it's really a beautiful moment. It's shot really nice. It's just a great moment where you're like, I love these characters.
Would you compare it to when Sam carries Frodo in?
No, no.
I'm kind of joking.
I just think, and maybe I'm being too. No, I love it. I think it's the best moment of the series.
I'm not trying to discredit it.
It's just a great character moment, and for the most part, I think with most movies, it's even when you like action, usually you're drawn to like a character moment, unless it's like Mission Impossible, because those are just so like stunt heavy.
Yeah.
But that's just like the culmination of those two characters for me.
Yeah.
And I just love that moment.
It's so cool too because none of the other movies have spent time on things like this.
Yeah.
Like the like screen time, like yes, there are moments, but nothing like this. And it's just another example of the content and the subject matter maturing.
Yeah.
For sure. I also really like that they do have a radio.
Yeah,
throughout their
I was
journey.
going to say the radio thing. So
well, it's like someone is broadcasting on a channel all of the people who have been killed by Snatchers, Death Eaters, and stuff. And Ron's listening to it like obsessively to see if he's going to hear any of his family's name.
Yeah.
Nice, just a nice touch,
yeah.
I think. It really reminds me of World War stuff.
Yeah.
For sure.
And so then we find the Gryffindor sword that is guided.
We have to go to Godric's Hollow first.
Okay.
That's before Ron comes back.
Oh, okay.
So Harry and Hermione realize that they do need to go to Godric's Hollow. That is where Harry is from.
Yes.
That is where his parents died.
Oh, yes. There's that whole scene
also,
with the snake and...
Yeah, that's where Dumbledore's from.
Uh-huh.
So they...
Man, they breed them wizards down there.
Yep, Godric's Hollow. So they go there, even though it's not a great idea, of course, because that would be the first place anyone would suspect Harry to go.
Yeah.
But I would say another moment that they spent time on is they're there. It's like it's Christmas Eve, and Harry forgets everything for a second to find his parents' grave.
Yeah.
Really, really touching.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say this movie has that feeling that I think the hour after the 5 years later in Endgame kind of has, where you're like, whoa, they're really taking a breath.
Yeah. I would say so.
And I mean, it's very, very different, but I think it kind of has that same thing where it's like these characters don't know what to do, but we've been with them for so long, like we're used to them knowing what to do. So what are they going to do?
Yeah,
and
it's
the
time to
filmmakers
reflect.
Are confident enough to let it simmer.
Yes,
which is nice.
Yes, which I mean, I think that's one reason why this two-parter is a good use of a two-parter. Because like the source material is so big.
Yeah.
And I wonder if like someone else who would write the script would be like, yeah, we can probably skip a lot of the stuff that we just saw in this movie. But I would argue you shouldn't and you can't. And they didn't.
Well, we'll get into it.
Right. So While in the graveyard, Hermione also finds a grave with the Deathly Hallows sign on it, which I still don't really know what that is. Just a little tidbit. No, important. But yeah, love that he sees his parents' grave. Love that the house that he and his parents lived in is still destroyed and no one lives in it. Like, it's not
that's cool.
Yeah, not even habitable.
Mm-hmm.
And then they find that this woman is staring at them. And they follow her back, and they believe that she is the historian that was referenced at the wedding. I forget her name, but she's like the historian of wizard stuff. So they follow her back to her house. As they get into her house, Hermione is like, "This is bad, bad, bad." Harry's like, "We just have to do this. Like, she's gonna know something." She doesn't say anything to them. Doesn't say anything. The only thing she says is in parcel tongue.
Yeah. And then she goes all snake on their ass.
Yeah, right. Perfect. Just such good horror direction at this point in the movie, because it's very quiet. It's very dark. Harry and Hermione get split up in the house. That's when Hermione finds the Rita Skeeter book on Dumbledore. But it's also when she finds the actual woman who is the historian dead in the house, which means, Nagini the snake turned into the woman.
Nagini's a cool name.
Yeah.
It's fun to say.
Nagini.
Okay, so...
Yeah. So they get out. They disapparate.
Let's get to Lovegood.
Well, we have to get Ron back first.
So we get Ron back.
Yeah.
He's like...
Destroy the Horcrux.
They're trying to figure it out, and I'm just going to kind of plow through this scene.
Sure.
We have a Patronus that...
is a doe
that we assume is Lily Potter's Patronus. We find out later.
We don't know that.
It's Snape's.
I don't think we know that she has a doe Patronus yet.
Yeah, but I think, isn't that an implication? Because like his dad has the buck. So you're like, oh, this is like Lily. She's now showing him what to do.
Sure. I just can't remember at this point, so whatever.
I think that's what I would think, like narratively. Yeah. But then you find out later it's Snape.
I just can't remember if that's what I would think.
Yeah.
so we'll go with it.
And then there's really incredibly shot where Harry falls through the ice in this snowy area, and the way they shot is just fantastic.
Yeah.
Gets the sword of Gryffindor, and someone's coming up to help him, and sure enough, it's Ron. He's back.
Yeah.
And I do really like this touch where he is trying to say, like, I'm back. That thing really messed me up. I was being stupid. And he expects Hermione and Harry to just be like, okay, cool, let's go. And Hermione's still like, well, you suck.
Yeah.
Like, you really sucked back there. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
It feels a little more real. And it does make sense that Harry's just like, all right, well, you're back. Good.
Yeah, because Harry's mentality right now is like, we just need to get this done. Would love your help, but if you can't help me, I have to keep going.
Yeah, and then they go to destroy the Horcrux, and then there is a naked Emma Watson and Rupert Grint kissing each other. Daniel Radcliffe. And
they're going ham.
It's very over the, like... It's one of those things where I was like, oh, reading this, yeah.
Do you think it's too over the top visually?
Well, I think not to be like a parent, because I'm not a parent, but it's just one of those things. I mean, I guess the kids have already seen enough craziness by this point in the series, but it's just very sexual. It was just kind of shocking to me.
It's that kind of sexual innuendo.
That context.
Yeah, that sexual innuendo and things where you're like, that, I guess they can get away with that on Prime, like on television, but that's nuts. You know how like there's just some jokes on sitcoms that like families watch, and sometimes the jokes are a little like gross. Like people are going to think about that.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm curious.
I think it gets the point across. I don't have a problem with it. It's just one of those. It's kind of funny to me, like watching this series again, and you're just like, oh, that's like kind of graphic.
I'm curious if, because remember like The Office UK?
I must sound so conservative.
No, I don't know. But you know how like The Office UK is like pretty nuts?
It's pretty raunchy, yeah.
Do you think it could have been a cultural, like not like cultural, like it's not that bad?
I guess it, I mean, yeah.
Probably not worth really talking about. Let's blow past it.
Yeah.
Scratch everything we just said.
Yeah. I mean, I do have some conservative tendencies, but I wouldn't consider myself a conservative.
Yeah, we're going to blow past that too. Okay, so destroy Horcrux. Yay! And then they go to where? Help. Oh, they go to Luna Lovegood's daddy's house because Harry saw the symbol that he was wearing on the wedding, the same symbol that they found in the graveyard, same symbol in the book. So they go to his house to try to learn more information. He's being super weird and not like the cute Luna weird that he is also weird, like something's up weird.
Yeah.
But he tells them, he's like, you guys don't know the Deathly Hallows story. And that's when we get a really wonderfully animated sequence of Hermione reading the story.
Yeah, very cool.
Love it.
For some reason, it reminds me of Prince of Egypt.
Sure, yeah, I agree with that.
I think like kind of the characters, like how they're drawn is like that same kind of design, but they're all black. They're silhouettes, rather.
Yeah.
And just so cool. And you find this kind of fun, which it's kind of fun that like in this magical world, there's also folklore.
Yes, I think that's why I like it.
That's kind of an interesting idea in itself. And the whole idea is that these three brothers like outsmarted death by building this bridge over this river that would claim people.
Yes.
And so one of them asked to be like the most powerful wizard in the world.
So he gets the Elder Wand.
And then he's killed very soon afterward.
Yes.
Because he didn't like direct it
properly or something. He killed someone that he's had like a vengeance for, and then that night as he was sleeping, someone killed him. Like he was assassinated.
Oh, which makes sense why that's like the bond of when you take the wand, like then it becomes yours.
When you don't kill someone, that's not how you get it.
Well, yeah, but if he took, maybe that like starts the trend of like that guy taking wands or like that, or is that with all wands? If you take a wand, it's yours now.
No, it's an Elder Wand thing. If you disarm the person, but that doesn't mean killing them. That means disarming them.
Well, here's a funny idea if you think about it.
He killed him, therefore it's disarmed.
Well, yes, but Voldemort hears that and he goes, "Oh, you have to kill someone to get it." But you actually just have to disarm them.
Yeah.
So he was thinking what I thought.
Oh, I'm sure.
So that's kind of fun.
It makes sense in terms of like being like really dramatic. Like our minds go to the really dramatic thing. So like, of course you have to kill the person.
Yeah.
That means that's like proving that you really want the power. You have to kill him.
Yeah.
When it's not violent intent.
Yeah.
You know, it's whoever's using it for violence. Oh my gosh, are we going to talk about gun violence right now? Okay. But
so then we find out that one brother had like his wife died or something.
So he got the Death Stone.
The Resurrection Stone.
Resurrection Stone. Yes, you're right.
And then he raises her from the dead, but she's different, and then they both die.
She like just can't.
He hangs himself.
Yeah. I really like the animation on that part.
Didn't mean to cut you off there.
No,
I just remembered how that is kind of shocking as well.
It is, but it's cool animation.
It's very cool.
But yeah, she can't. He brings her back and it's fine for a time, but she just is dead. So
yeah,
it's not like she's back.
And then the other one gets the invisibility cloak.
Yeah, he asks to evade death.
Yeah.
So death gives him part of his cloak.
Yeah.
And I love how that one ends, where he bequeaths the cloak to his son, and then he greets death like an old friend.
Yeah, very cool.
I love that. And like you said,
it does have a fairy tale feel to it.
Yes. And like you said, like the fact that this world has folklore now.
Yeah.
Like I know there's been like legends and stuff, but like this is a folklore.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, buddy, I am in 150%. And you can't go much higher than that.
No, you can't. You really can't.
Yeah.
So now the stage is set.
Well,
we got Horcruxes, we got Deathly Hallows. What are we going to do? Your turn.
I was just going to mention
raising your hand.
I was going to mention Mr. Lovegood says Voldemort gets Death Eaters to come there because he tells them that Luna has been taken.
Right.
By Death Eaters. So he's trying to like give up Harry to get her back. And then right after that, they get kidnapped. And that's when Hermione messes up Harry's face.
And this is when they're running through the forest. And this scene is so good looking. It's crazy.
Don't the chains look really good? The chains effect?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Amazing.
But I just love it. Is so those sweeping shots are so intense. And I was looking at behind the scenes. And I think at the time it was newer, but they have the camera on a wire so it can go really fast.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and also something I never thought of, the stunt coordinator has to go through, like they plot where they're going to run. and then he has to go through and make sure there's not stuff that's going to trip the actors and make them break their legs and stuff.
The crazy thing about the movie 1917.
Yeah.
When he is running out when the front lines people are going to war and he's running with them, but like not against, but perpendicular.
Yeah.
And bombs are going off and he's being mowed over by people, and you're watching and you're like, man, this is so believable. He probably just started running.
Yeah.
And they just did whatever happened.
Yeah.
And then of course you read an article and they're like, no, that was like, it consisted of over 500 people and they had to choreograph every little tiny detail.
Yeah.
To where he would get knocked over, which happened, I think, at least twice in that scene.
Yeah.
It's just like even more respect for stunt people and choreographers, which I think that within the last 2 years I've like understood it
like
so
an
much
awakening
more. Because of Mission Impossible and because of John Wick.
Yeah.
That even more, it's just so crazy.
But this was a crazy thing, like you just said, where I didn't even realize, like, to me, I think stunt coordinator and I think Tom Cruise, Burj Khalifa, like insane stunts. Yeah. But it's also things like this, like these are actors and they need to make sure that they don't like break a leg. And if you're running through a forest full speed and you trip on a stump that should have been removed, you're going to break your leg. And then all of a sudden production shut down for months.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh yeah, they do like way more than that. Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool. And so, and anyway, Emma Watson though, she was talking about how like sometimes if you're doing a scene like that, you might have to kind of like not run your full pace.
Oh, that makes sense.
But she goes, since they had this wire rig, they were just like hauling and running as fast as they could. And I think that intensity really shows.
It's for sure.
I mean, this scene is so intense.
Sometimes you watch a movie and this is happening and you're like, I feel like they could be running faster. Haven't you thought that before?
Oh, I've thought that,
I feel like everyone's thought that.
Not with Tom, though. Tom's always running full speed.
See Tom run.
See Tom run.
Okay, but
I just want to, again, highlight that, like, the way they shot this, it's a really breathtaking scene. I mean, this is my favorite looking of all the movies, even though, like, a movie ago it was nominated for an Oscar, or 2 movies ago. No, I think it was one movie ago. But I like this one even more, how it looks.
Yeah. I think I agree. Yeah, I agree.
But the other one has a lot of interesting angles.
I think
that's what it has going for it.
I think 6, 7, 8, like 6 darker. And I think like contrast visually more.
Yeah.
This one, add that with a little bit of grit. Third one, you bump up both of those way up, becomes a much grittier movie.
Yeah.
Looking wise, I think.
Yeah.
But let's blow through this. So Hermione messes up Harry's face with a spell so they can't recognize him. Uh-huh. So they're taken to Malfoy Manor.
Which confused me for a second.
Yeah, it is confusing and jarring. But you're kind of like, Hermione did it, so.
And the producer said exactly what I said the other day when we were talking about it, David Heyman. He was saying how like with Harry's face messed up, they had to do that fine balance where it still needs to look like Harry so that the audience knows it's Harry, and so that it makes sense that people would think it's Harry, but it had to look disfigured enough that it could pass as not being Harry.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes in movies like this, they'll do something like that and you just go, it's just, Brad Pitt with a scar on his face. It's clearly Brad Pitt, you know. But this one, you're like, it could be someone else.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
Yeah. Love that. So they're taken to Malfoy Manor, where you find that Luna, Ollivander, Griphook, I think it's them, who are also prisoners in the dungeon.
Yeah.
But this is when Bellatrix is there and she's having Draco identify Harry.
Yeah.
And this is like, and we talked about this too, where Draco's trying to identify him, but he's not sure. And you're sitting there thinking, come on, dude. He's with Ron and Hermione. It's Harry.
Yeah.
Why are you being dumb? Well, in the next movie, they talk about it.
Oh, that's right.
Remember
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Which we'll wait until the next movie, but he's not sure, and he just can't be for sure, because it's like, if he says yes and it's not him, he just killed an innocent person. Uh-huh. If he says no and it is him, he dies. Yeah. Like Draco's gonna get killed, So it's you can see the struggle there. Mm-hmm. But also you can see him being like, you're like, he has to be faking this, right? Yeah. And then you have to wait another movie to find out the answer to that. But Ron and Harry are taken out of the dungeon. Hermione stays there, and Bellatrix tortures her.
And a piece of hair falls right next to her.
So as Ron and Harry are in the dungeon, that's when they find the people I just named. And we see Dobby shows up.
Yeah.
And I think that it is a Deus Ex Machina that works.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
It works.
I think we need to readjust our understanding of Deus Ex Machinas, because he does come in at the last act, but he's been set up throughout the series. So it's not really a Deus Ex Machina. And I don't know that Deus Ex Machinas are inherently bad.
No. They're just bad examples. Bad versions of it, which is what we latch on to.
Yes. Yeah.
But also because Dobby randomly showed up earlier in the movie, that's why I think it's especially okay. Because it's not so totally confusing.
Yeah. So, I think if it had been since we saw him in Chamber of Secrets, it'd be a little jarring. It'd still work.
Yeah.
And then especially because in the next movie you find out that he was sent by Dumbledore.
Yeah.
The brother.
How? Oh, Aberforth. Right.
Yeah. So you're like, oh, it's really not a Deus Ex Machina.
Because of the mirror.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm just remembering it. The whole time Harry has his mirror and he thinks he's looking at Dumbledore.
Yeah.
Okay. So Dobby takes Ollivander, Griphook, and Luna away.
Yeah. And
that sounds right. Oh, I love it because that's when Luna's like, whenever you're ready, sir. And Dobby's like, I like her.
Yeah.
So nice. So then Dobby tells Ron and Harry, meet me at the top of the stairs in 10 seconds. Dobby gets him up there, man. And then there is a confrontation where Harry steals Malfoy's wand and gets their other wands back.
Yeah.
Notice, Harry disarms Draco.
Malfoy.
It's important.
Right.
And Bellatrix is holding a knife up to Hermione's neck. And you're just like, I don't know what they can do here.
Yeah.
Until you hear a little squeak, squeak, squeak.
Yeah, I love this.
And Dobby is up on top of the chandelier unscrewing it.
For a little bit of time.
For a while.
It's very funny.
Yeah. Well-placed comedic timing. The chandelier falls, Hermione and Bellatrix part. Dobby takes them and disapparates. And just as he is, Bellatrix throws a knife. It successfully goes through.
Yes. And then we're on a beach. Dobby's lying there. He's been stabbed. And Dobby dies. And it is very sad. I definitely teared up.
Yeah.
He's just one of those. It's like him and Hagrid are just like the two where you're like, well, not them. Like, don't kill them off.
Yeah.
And I think it does. When it was coming, remembering that Dobby dies in this movie and watching the movie, I'm like, this is not going to work for me. But it does make sense.
I think that sometimes when we watch things, because it's a story that we're watching, I think although things are still sad, we're fine with someone dying if they've been redeemed.
Yeah.
But like Dobby had no redemption. Like he didn't need redemption.
Yeah.
Because he was helpful and true the whole time.
Yeah.
And I think that makes it a little bit sadder because he really didn't deserve it.
No.
When I feel like sometimes other characters in other stories, it's like they were redeemed, they repented.
Yeah.
And now their story's over and they have to die because of it, like a punishment in a way.
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit more sad.
It is nice though when you think about it because he's had like 4 or 5 years as a free elf. You know?
Yeah.
Which is not long in the life of a house elf, but
yeah. And among some of his last words, he's like, "It's good to be here among friends."
Yeah.
My friend Harry Potter.
And it looked. I think they had some practical elements to that because the way it's interacting is just like so insane to me.
Yeah. And then I like that Harry wants to give him a proper human burial.
Yeah.
No magic.
Yeah.
So they bury him.
And then the movie ends.
Yes.
And I think that the movie, someone yelled outside, kind of scary. We'll have to shut the curtains when we finish this episode.
Yeah.
I think that this movie, maybe this makes more sense to have this conversation at the end of part 2, just discussing the part 1 and part 2 of it all.
I guess I'll say my part.
Okay.
So I think it works really, really, really well as a first parter because it ends with the good guys being down. And it feels like the bad guys are up one leg.
Yeah.
So it's a good ending knowing that there's a part 2.
Yeah. And I guess I think that not to give away too much of my opinion of the next movie, but I think that this movie feels like it does in the way that the previous movies does. It like does tell a story.
Yes.
And it kind of begins, middle, and ends. It's not like a totally complete story, and there's cliffhanger.
Yeah.
But I feel like they had to figure out how to defeat the Horcrux, and they did it. And then they had to, they had to figure out a bunch of stuff, and they figured it out.
Yes.
And then, like you said, the villains are ahead, and then it's like, yeah, I don't know. This movie works for me on a like movie level.
Yes.
I mean, it would be a bummer to just watch it. Like, you can watch Infinity War, I think, and you can watch it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like if you watch Deathly Hallows Part 1, you don't want to wait to watch the next one. You need to just watch it because they are that interconnected. But anyway, Roger Ebert, which I forgot to mention, he said he gave it 3 out of 4. He said, David Yates' Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows is a handsome and sometimes harrowing film and will be completely unintelligible for anyone coming to the series for the first time.
Well, that's true.
At 146 minutes, it confronts us with a roll call of the many, many characters in the series and requires a nearly encyclopedic recall of the epic's previous chapters. Though I've seen the films, there were times when I had no idea what they were talking about. Indeed, there are times when Hermione has to explain to Harry. And then he also said, like, he kind of clarified, like, I didn't mind that I didn't remember stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But he's like, there is a lot of stuff that I just don't get because I haven't read the books and because I haven't recently rewatched all the movies.
And I feel like with the movie, they made a choice to not holding anyone's hand, because they could have if they wanted to. But I wonder, as they're meeting about this movie and the script being written, they're making that decision of like, we're writing this for the people who have read the book.
Yeah.
Not just the people who've been watching them the whole time.
Well, and they even do less. Like, I thought the Endgame did a good job of not holding people's hands, but I feel like they do an even... They go even further where they're like, no, really, we're like, if you haven't seen anything else, like, too bad.
Well, yeah, it's like Marvel. It's like, if you haven't seen the past 20 movies, why are you here?
But they still do. They still try to make it like a movie that you can go to and see.
Yeah.
And like, but this one, I feel like, and even more than their previous movies, they're a little like, whatever, we're just going. Yeah. If you don't like it by now, that's your problem. We don't care about it.
And I salute you on that.
Yeah. So next week, we are doing Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. And I implore you, friends, please come to my release show. It's next Friday, on the day that we release the Deathly Hallows Part 2.
Wow, what a fitting release.
I know. It's epic.
Yeah.
And it'll be at the Children's Sanctuary Church in Medford. Doors at 6:30. Shows at 7. It's no admission, but I would highly encourage you to go to patreon.com/MicahMcCaw and sign up. You get the album for only $10, plus you get exclusive episodes of podcasts and all this other stuff. And you could, I don't want you to cancel, but you could cancel anytime. And you could just buy the album, basically, if that's how you want to support. Anyway, rate, review, subscribe.
I want to plug too. I haven't plugged in a while. I have a blog called recountreveal.com.
Yeah.
And I write little short things about folklore.
You write your own Deathly Hallows in a way.
But not, because it's based, well, I guess so, but it's based on real things.
Yeah.
Or is it? But it's about bizarre historical events, whether they be folklore, whether they be about Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah. Real good one on Doma Voice.
That's the latest one.
Not to date this episode, because there'll probably be one more since then. But...
Probably not. That's why I'm plugging.
But yeah, thanks for listening. See you at the show. If you listen and I don't know you listen, let me know at the show, because that would be so cool to hear.
Let me know too. I'll be there.
Yeah, Jordan will be there too. So anyway, thank you. Bye.
Bye.